definitely had big crate anxiety when we first got him.
At first you did.
Yeah, but then like he's been okay.
And he stayed at my parents for a week, like a couple weeks ago, and but I think one of the differences there is we put a
cover. I
over
didn't
it.
think to send it. Maybe next time we'll send the cover. I don't know, cause he likes to be like
Dark.
enclosed.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
That way, like he doesn't see the other dogs, and
Yeah,
like
he's fine.
I don't know. And then I think he's just better with it. We tried it initially without it. And
Had you sent them in the bed before?
yeah,
Had you sent
every
them in
time in the same bed.
Okay,
Isn't that weird?
interesting. Yeah, I think it was probably Klaus, because that's the only thing that's different.
Okay,
His
Reg,
house
we'll blame
definitely
another dog.
Has kennel anxiety. So it probably made him unsettled. That's why, like, when we tell people, like, if their dog is kennel trained and stuff like that, because their energy will make the other dogs unsettled.
Yeah.
But Klaus had actually just started right when this guy came. So, because now he's more relaxed with it. Alrighty, so what we're gonna do here is cover, placement, and or pillow as you've done it. And we're gonna layer in the pressure so that he understands how it turns on and turns off, just like with everything else, okay? What's your number currently set at?
33.
Okay, let's go ahead and pick, have you step over here with Reggie.
Over to you.
Yeah. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna start about a square away, okay? So one tile for this beginning portion of it. And what we're gonna do is teach him that when he feels the pressure, that going here turns it off, okay? So we're not gonna use the word pillow or place. We're gonna use strictly the remote first, okay? So what you're gonna do is you're gonna start tapping. And on that second to third tap, if Reggie doesn't do anything, you're gonna keep tapping and then pull towards the placemat, again, without saying anything. But we're trying to get him to do it himself in response to the caller, okay? Once we start to see you tap, he'll start to shoot there consistently and easily, then we'll start going with layering in the word, okay? So go ahead and tap, tap, and you're gonna do slower taps. And you're at 30 what now?
33. Still 33.
Let's go 40. And tap, tap, tap. 45.
Oops.
Tap, tap, tap. Now tap and pull. Right there. And we're gonna go down to 42. And then you're gonna release them and then step away. Sorry, I'm gonna keep release, but give your verbal release.
Oh. Free.
There you go. Good. And we're gonna repeat that 4 more times.
Should I have him sit here or does it matter?
What he does, as long as, so if he tries to go there prematurely,
Yeah.
you'll definitely restrain him. Because he's gonna start assuming at some point, whether he sits, lays down, or whatever, it doesn't matter.
Okay, because he will probably cower. He cowers when you nick him.
Okay. And tap, tap, tap. Now tap and pull. Good. A little bit of praise, hit a boy.
boy.
And break.
Free.
Good. 3 more.
Reggie.
It's the conscious go over here with these
I know,
trees.
he loves the smell.
Tap, tap, and tap and pull. Good. Praise that boy.
Good boy.
Free.
Free.
Good. 2 more.
Eh. Okay. It doesn't matter what side he's on?
Yeah, doesn't matter. Tap, 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 and tap and pull. There you go. Good.
Good boy. I know.
And free.
Good boy. Free.
Good. Do 1 more. Yep. Tap, and then pull. There you go. Good. And praise.
Good boy.
Good.
Yeah, good boy.
So now what we're gonna do, same exercise, except you're gonna be sending them from different angles. Okay, so you might send them from here, you might walk around and send them from here, but you're still keeping it about that square distance.
Okay.
Okay?
Free.
There you go. Good.
Good boy. Yeah.
Free.
Free.
Good.
He's like, I don't want to go back to mom. I want to go to dad.
dip as he gets familiar with the exercise. So I'm doing this reverse because we're kicking with the pressure first, as opposed to giving guidance. Now pull, yep. Good. So then once you
Good
get
boy. Yes. 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 Breathe. Yeah.
Confused.
Yeah. And we're gonna dip and pull. Yep. And we're gonna dip down, let's try 32. And we're gonna lay off the praise 2. Because since he's already getting kind of
getting
wound
excited,
up,
yeah.
we're just adding more energy to an already energized dog. Release.
Breathe.
Good, we're gonna try it a couple more times. We're at 38, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was at 34.
Oh, that's fine, 34 is fine. Tap. Tap. Then a little bit of a pull. Tap. Let's go down to 22.
Breathe.
Yep. And there we go, almost tap pull. Yeah.
Good
Let's go
boy.
down to 18.
Here. No, breathe. Oh,
Sorry. And a moment.
just don't want him to be like scared of
It won't make him scared. He's just gotta figure out what's going on. Yep. Good. Alright, good.
it. Yes.
So now,
Breathe.
release. What we're gonna do is when you go to send him, you're gonna start those taps first that you've been, but when you pull to bring him forward, you're not gonna step forward.
Okay.
Okay, you're gonna keep back.
Sure.
And then you're gonna use the leash tension and the tapping to pop them forward without using any,
Yeah.
we're refraining from moving. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Good.
Yes.
Good. Moment.
Yes.
Free.
Breathe.
Just saying wait, because you're waiting to see if he jumps right back off. So what would the correction be there?
You just start tapping and then a little bit of pressure back for that. Yeah, and then lightly pull forward. There we go. Good.
Yes.
Good.
Breathe.
3 more.
Yes.
Good.
Breathe.
2 more. Tap. Tap. There you go. Good. Good.
Yes.
And 1 more.
Breathe.
Yep. Good.
Yes.
Good. Let's go ahead. I'll have you guys have a seat. We're gonna keep.
Breathe.
Uh,
Okay, in there.
So here, go ahead and move them off.
Just
And
do
then
it again.
reset them. There. Good. Yep. And have a seat. But keep releasing your hands. Yep. Right there. Good. Yep. Good. Yep. Good. All right. So, why do you think the whining is happening now?
Because he doesn't want to do it. And he's being stubborn.
Testing us.
He's anxious.
Why?
Because he doesn't understand like why he's getting zapped.
Well, in the beginning, yeah, but right now he just gave me a very clear visual of what he's worked up over.
He doesn't want to, he wants to be next to us.
Next to who?
David.
Yes. Okay, so like right there, everything has been really much angled in the direction that you're standing.
Mm-hmm.
And right now when you placed them, when you went to sit down, he didn't come to you.
Yeah.
He ran over to David.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Right, so that's like attachment
Uh-huh.
or separation type anxiety.
Mhm.
Okay, so in the beginning, yeah, it was a lot of power.
Uh-huh.
We started low, we worked our way up, then it became too much, then we worked our way back down again. And he started to settle a bit with that, but it became more so him being there when he really wants to be with David.
Yeah.
Okay? Whether because he doesn't like the exercise
Mhm.
or because just from attachment stuff. Okay? Because you guys just
He's
picked
very-
him up this morning.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
He's much more attached to David, I'd say though.
Gotcha. And I see stuff like this with couples regularly. It's not anything uncommon.
Yeah.
So like I remember I was working with a couple at Oz Park, and the boyfriend was placing the dog, and the girlfriend was behind the dog, and the dog kept like barking and like pulling because he wanted to get to the girlfriend because she was behind him, and he had to keep correcting. Eventually, the dog would settle down. Okay.
Yeah.
So here, what I did like is when you sat down and he hopped off and you tapped, what happened?
You
turned and came right back to it, okay? Which is interesting because all the sends were difficult to a degree.
Yeah,
where you had to
there's
tap
like
and tap
dragging him.
and the pull. So what we're gonna do here is change how much effort we're putting in, okay? So the more you physically apply, or physical force you apply, you're doing more of the work. Whereas we're wanting him to hear, once you get him to that point, feel the tap and or hear the word of place and just shoot there, okay? So what we'll do,
should we switch from pillow to place?
oh, I'm sorry, or pillow.
But
Well, should we switch? We should probably switch.
It doesn't matter. You can use pillow.
Is it too late to switch?
No.
Let's just say place.
Okay.
Because then it's like, doesn't need to be a pillow.
But then it's the same thing as like, so how does place work with more than one place? Or is it, okay.
So place is like super versatile, okay? So you could have a place in the bedroom, a place in the living room, a place in the kitchen.
Right.
And it can be, if you're in the bedroom, he would opt for the one in the bedroom, because that's the context.
Okay.
If you're in the living room, he most likely opt for the one in the living room, okay?
Yeah, I think place would make sense because we say kennel and we say pillow, but now it's just one thing.
Or cheesy,
Gotcha.
to go to bed.
Yeah.
Sure. So the other thing you could do is like sometimes, let's say you could have, you know, a place here and a place here in the same room, but you would give them different names.
Okay.
Place and go to your bed,
Yeah.
or kennel, whatever. Or it's the same word, different objects,
Yeah.
but you differentiate by pointing.
Handy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He is good
I like
at that.
that. I think the point.
He's good at that.
I'll grab some water.
Okay. He loves his daddy more.
So you could do same word, different objects,
Right.
or by pointing. So it'd be like place or place if it's in the same space. Place can be anything. It can be tap, tap, tap.
I tapped him for whining.
That was correct. Did you tap him when he hopped off?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, cool. So wait a moment. Right. So here, and I'll explain what happened there in a moment, but here with the place, it can be a pillow, it can be a blanket, it can be a towel, it can be an elevated dog bed. I've had clients use an area rug, so it was a really big area rug. They're like, can that be placed? I said, sure. It just has to be a perimeter.
Yeah.
Okay, it has to be something that the dog can differentiate from, like, oh, I stay on here, I can't step on there.
Right.
I've had people take like a sheet and section off a part of the couch to differentiate that part of the couch from the rest of the couch, and that can become their place. So it can be anything as long as it sets a perimeter. I had a client whose dog was a St. Bernard. He chewed up like a really expensive dog bed. So they're like, we're not getting him another one. And what they did was they duct taped, painter taped like a square.
And that was it.
And I was like, yeah, because it sets a perimeter.
Yeah.
It just has to be something
Yeah.
that has a clear definition of a boundary. I couldn't point to the corner here and say place, because where does it end?
Sure.
Right.
He's got the two walls,
It needs
but
to have
pointing
a
this
border.
way.
Okay.
Exactly. So then he knows, as long as I stay within this perimeter, nothing happens. So here, he started to whine or whatever. You corrected him, which was correct. And then he thinks being on place caused the correction.
Right.
So then he hops off. So then you kick him with the pressure again. And he hops back and he's like, all right. He's like, I was on place. I got remoted for something. I jumped off and I got remoted again. And when I jumped on place, I went away. So I wasn't being remoted for being on place.
Okay.
I was being remoted for something else, right? So this is where repetition comes into play. So in the beginning, if the dog doesn't have a good, have a good concept of the place command, you're gonna see confusion like that, okay? Where you tap them and it pops them off of the area, and it's just part of the process. Typically by like the second to third time you correct them, he's gonna start associating it to his behavior. And you'll see him like bark or whine, and you'll correct him, and instead of like jumping off, he's gonna go into a more of a resting state position. Okay?
He's pouting.
He's pouting?
Yeah.
So, with place, there's two components. There's the send, and then there's the stay there. Okay? What we're teaching right now is the send. When you feel this, it needs to go here. So we're teaching him how it turns on and how it turns off, okay? So we're kicking in with pressure first, because like let's say you did say place, and he hopped there. Well, great, but how do we layer in the pressure? Right, so we always remove the word, teach the pressure, and then bring in the word after the fact, okay? So here, because he has some familiarity with remote collar, there's a bit of confusion, because now we're clarifying the communication of, hey, but when you feel this, it means do something. So that's where some of that anxiety is coming from, plus the anxiety of just like attachment stuff, okay? So here, when you get that, we work through it, okay? Our instinct is typically to like stop or lay off or give the dog a break or something. But then he learns if he does that, everything goes away.
Yeah,
And what we're
just
trying
at
to-
a lower setting kind of thing. Keep
Yeah.
going, but at a lower setting.
Right,
Yeah.
like yes, there's something that needs to be adjusted, but we don't completely stop, okay? Because realistically speaking, if something happens, like let's say reactivity, reactivity is a stress response. And when you kick in with the remote, whether it's to disengage or to do something, you don't want him to question it, you want him to just perform. So it's the same thing here, even though he's not being reactive, it's him becoming stressed, it's him becoming anxious, and you're saying, hey bud, I know you feel this way, but you still have to do this, okay? And that's what builds that reliability. Plus he learns that the only way to turn pressure off is just compliance, and there's no other option. Sounds bad, sounds mean, but we're not dealing with the human, we're dealing with the
No,
dog.
he's like the most stubborn animal.
So what we're doing now is essentially working on the stay component, okay? Because you placed them, you sat down, you first tried to go to David, you're like, nope, you can't do that. He went back, you corrected him a couple more times, and then we've been sitting here, and then he started, like he whined or whatever, you corrected him, and he hopped off, you kept correcting him, he goes back. All of that stuff is teaching him to not move, okay? So,
Sit there and shut up.
yes, place is lenient in the
Yeah.
sense where it's like, I don't care what the dog does. Sit, stand, lay down, chew on a bone, play with a toy, I don't care. But just stay within this perimeter, right? Or, and it can be like, don't whine, don't bark, don't growl, but the place becomes the reference point, okay? So then if I correct them and he jumps off, we have to correct to drop him back, bring him back on again. So here, for dogs that like to move, or dogs that have a hard time turning off and resting, this is a great exercise. Okay, so like I have another client right now, the dog's name is Marshall, he's a German Shepherd, he's daycare. He's been coming here since he was a little fluff. And they told me that he's only ever fallen asleep outside of his kennel once in the past 5 months. Okay, tap, 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 and then with a leash pressure, tap, tap. There we go. And then, yep. He's only fallen asleep outside of his kennel once in 5 months. Okay? He's constantly on. He's constantly wanting attention. He's constantly barking at them. All these things, right? We did the place command. By the end of the class, he was sleeping on the bed. And they're like, this is crazy. Like, he's literally not slept outside of the kennel for except one time in 5 months. And I said, because this is mental exercise. Okay? This is mental control. So like when we have the dogs here, they're sitting there and they're hanging out, all the stuff's going on. They're learning to just be in this kind of mental state with all this happening, right? So in the home, because dogs are so used to freedom, that people really don't do, like go here and don't move for a bit. And for dogs, it's important because it just teaches them, like, yes, at some point in the house there's going to be control. And also, like, there might be a lot of stuff going on, but you have to maintain calmness. There is no whining, there is no barking, there is no, like, asking for attention. It's you go here, you do this, and if you don't, there's going to be a correction. Okay? So when it comes to creating the stay component, dogs learn best with negative experiences to stop things. Okay? So place means go here, don't move. Right? But if I say place and he goes there, and then 20 minutes later he gets off, and I say place again, I'm resetting the command. I'm not teaching him not to move. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because place means go here, don't move. So if he starts to get off and I say place and he goes back again, he's going back to it, but nothing said don't move.
Right.
So what we would do is instead jump straight to the remote. So he's thinking, okay, place, this kicks in, I go here, it turns off.
Mm-hmm.
If I try to step off without permission or for whatever without permission, it kicks in again and it doesn't stop until I go back to what I was doing. And that's what teaches them to not get off, which
Yeah.
is the stay component.
He's actually been fairly good with stay, but something I've noticed, like when I try to do like some training and I'll put him in a stay and work around the house and I have his collar on, he stays way better.
Oh, yeah.
Like he knows he has his collar on.
Sure, yeah.
And like he'll stay way better than if it was just him at night without his, and he knows he doesn't have his collar on.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a free for all.
Sure.
But he also, I think he listens better to me if he doesn't have his collar on and I put him in a stay, he stays.
For that, yeah.
Yeah.
When you use the place command within the home, is it on a regular basis or is it like when you
We use it pretty frequently.
Yeah,
good.
like every,
When we
for
eat.
dinner, like he knows now, like we pray for dinner, he goes to his pillow, like, and he stays there the whole time and doesn't move until
After
we get
we're
up.
eating.
Okay,
So it's pretty much daily.
okay. So like right there what he's learned is like the pattern.
Yeah, oh,
Right.
for
Oh,
sure.
yeah, 100%.
So
So then he eats after us.
Okay. So then here, when it comes to applying the place within the home, right? One thing is, like you said, with the collar, he behaves better, so that's why I call it the cop and the collar.
Mm-hmm.
Is if when you know, like, if guests are coming over, or there's going to be external stimuli, it's like we have that collar for sure,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
When it comes down to applying place to other times throughout the day, in the beginning, you'll probably need to off the collar,
Okay.
but then you'll kind of like, breakfast, lunch, dinner, you know, TV time, like,
Yeah.
6 to 7, like even time frames in the home. They get so conditioned to it
Yeah.
that that's where it's like, okay, we send them and then he won't move because you've done it so frequently. It's created kind of like a bit of a habit,
Mm-hmm.
okay?
Mhm.
So that doesn't strike me as out the ordinary.
Mm-hmm.
I would, when you do place, what's the longest you've done?
Probably like an hour.
Okay, and does he try to break
He'll-
off?
No, but he'll like, his toy bin is right next to his pillow and he'll like swat at it. He won't get up, but he'll like swat at
He'll
it
get a toy still
and
somewhere.
dump it to get a toy. And then he just sits there and chews. He doesn't like get up then.
Okay.
That's probably the greatest extent of,
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty good about staying on his pillow.
Okay, what I would do is remove the bed
yeah.
and leave him there for an hour. See what happens.
He will get probably like, I mean, you've seen how anxious he gets to sit, like, sitting
But
still.
he will just like go
Yeah,
to sleep.
he eventually.
Yeah. And what I would do is also push for more extended period of time. Usually like, I don't know, people like 2 to 2.5 hour range.
Okay.
'Cause that's when you really test dogs.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then you might see them get a little bit more antsy, which is what I'm wanting to see. Because the more you challenge them with like being stationary for a period of time, the way I like growing up, like we went to church
Mhm.
when I was a little kid. So my mom was like, "You're going to church. You gotta behave yourself," And I'm like this 6-year-old kid trying to sit still in the middle of church. I don't know what's going on, right? I'm like reading through the Bible, I'm like climbing stuff, and Mom's like, shut up, be quiet. Right? Same for the dog, because they're kind of like kids, they want to move. So then when you start to get to that kind of 2 to 2.5 hour range is when you start to really see
It's
them
like the
kind of get
mental toughness.
exactly. And then just teach them like, hey, you have to be,
Mhm.
chill or passive this entire time. And then it just challenges them a bit more mentally. Okay, and you don't have to do it every day,
Yeah.
but like
A
at least,
couple times a week.
yeah, 2-3 times a week. Yeah, good. Because like you
I
see,
didn't tap him because he didn't get off.
yeah, no, that was correct.
Okay.
But like that slight movement from you, right? And just that trigger of like, what are we doing? It's like, don't worry about what we're doing, right? So then like my guys, to give you an example, if they were to be in some kind of stationary position, if I were to stand up,
Mhm.
they would probably wouldn't even bat their eyes.
Yeah.
They're just like, whatever.
Yeah.
They don't really care so much about what I do.
Right.
So just keep being mindful of stuff like that. And then at this stage, when you practice this place right now, is he like already at a distance of you, or is he like nearby you?
Like a distance, like
Oh, we do
across
both.
the room.
Well, sometimes like we're like this close, We tell him
On
that
the
he does
couch,
it.
yeah,
Right.
when we're on the couch.
Or we'll be in like our kitchen and tell him to pillow and he'll go to his pillow.
I would say more often than not, we're further away, because we also have him do pillow when we have people over.
Yeah.
For the first like 30 minutes.
Uh-huh.
We'll like go to the kitchen and have him on the pillow and no one's over there and he's just on his pillow.
Gotcha. So I would keep with that, because you're already ahead, because typically with people, we have to build it up to that.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that he hates, like a vacuum or
vacuums.
He
no?
doesn't love vacuums, but he doesn't like get crazy about
Well,
it.
he's super reactive to like lasers and reflections.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, very.
Like if I were to take my phone and have the sun and put a dot on the wall, he'd be going nuts.
Oh, really? Like
Oh, yeah.
barking or
No,
Chasing
just like
it.
chasing it.
He tries
To
to
the
catch
point
it.
of like, he would do it for 5 hours if he liked.
He's done so bad that he like pees in the house because he's so
That when we first
hyped.
Oh, I see.
When we first
Like he
started.
just forgets where he is.
Mhm.
It's all over that.
It's all
Sure.
up
It's
to-
all the time.
It's crazy.
Sure. So the reason why I asked that is like if he's here, you know,
Put
Test
a
them.
laser.
Test them,
Oh my
and then
god,
you would
he
correct.
would crumble.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anything and
Okay.
everything that I know the dog either doesn't like or I know will trigger them, I use it to my advantage.
Mhm.
You know, and like here, obviously he got up to see, and he held still, which is good. All that stuff is stuff that we press.
Mhm.
Okay.
But he's so like triggered, you know.
This is technically okay. So you can see, which is where you going, Dad? What's going on, Dad? Wait on me. Come in and pet him a little bit, and then step away. Give it a tap here. Good. But you see kind of how it just backed him. He's not completely passive, but it backed him to him. Tap, 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 tap. Good. Wait a moment. So I'm going to show you something. So anticipate he's going to break off, okay? Tap, 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 tap. And then very subtle pressure tap towards the bed. Tap. Right there, and relax, wait a moment. Tap. Tap, tap, tap. And then slight pressure, tap, tap. There you go, wait a moment. Tap. Wait a moment. Wait a moment. There. Is if you place him and you see him in an escalated state,
You can
place
still
the close.
tip.
Yeah, you can bring it down lower, okay? So places go here and I don't care what you do, right? But if you send them and you see like he's in an escalated, overstimulated, aroused, or anxious state, you can settle him.
Yeah, that's a big one we could use.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
otherwise, like when we have guests over, we pillow him, he'll go,
He's so
but he's just like waiting for us to like let him.
Like he's like on the edge of
or
his
for
seat.
people to greet him, and he's just super amped.
Gotcha. So what you would do is in the beginning, while you're teaching, you always want to have the leash on, and in the beginning, the leash in your hands, okay? Because you want to just assume he's going to make a mistake. So right now, he broke off like 3 to 4 times, right?
Mhm.
So what you were communicating was, hey bud, I know you're in place, but I need you to chill out more. But when you tapped him, his brain was on, I want to be with somebody.
Right.
That's why it pushed him to that, okay? So then you kept tapping, he goes back, he's like, all right, wasn't bad. You tapped again, he jumps off, and we repeated that, and eventually he goes, okay, every time I get the tap and I jump off, I keep getting tapped. So it's not that.
Mhm.
And then he goes into, well, let me see if I just chill. And then the tapping stops. So then he learns that line of communication, is, oh, okay. Tap meant to stay there, but then just relax.
Mhm.
Okay, so you can talk or communicate with him more deeply, but if he has to figure it out himself, because people feel bad a lot of times, so like, but Jess is not doing anything wrong with you.
Yeah, I do feel bad like tapping him when he's on there because it's like, but you just told me to do that, you know. But it's
part of the
for a
process.
different thing.
Yeah, because I can't tell him like, hey buddy, I'm gonna tap you right now. When I tap you, it means to relax, right? You can't do that. So we have, it's just trial and error.
Mhm.
That's why I was like, dogs learn best by making mistakes, right? So you repeat that, and by the 4th, 5th time or whatever, I got what I wanted. This is exactly what I was looking for, you know? So like, let's say he's on place, and like you get up, and you saw how he was like on the edge of it, Like, that's the brain telling you, like, hey, I really want to be with you, right? And I can just tap him, like, hey, don't worry about it. Dad's just getting up to go to the kitchen. Like, it's like reading the situation, you know? Like, all you're doing is point A to point B. And he's like, what's going on, right? And it's like, we don't need that right now, right? Because it's a part of impulse control. And impulse control is the same thing as coming out the elevator.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I could definitely do some of this during the day when I work from home, because he does do that. Like, I'll be in my office working on stuff, and like, he'll be laying on the couch or whatever, and then if I get up to go to the kitchen, he's like immediately running to the kitchen, like, what are you doing? What's new? What's different? Checking everything out.
Yeah, and then it's unhealthy, right? Like, dogs are pack animals, right? My dogs, if I were to get up and go to the kitchen, like, sometimes they'll look up and like, what's going on? Sometimes they just keep sleeping. Sometimes they're just nothing, right? So, but when it's consistently, any little movement you make, it's like, right? It's like, okay, that's too much. Is all this stuff is impulse control, and impulse control is the same whether it's coming out the elevator or you, like when you came up and he was like, Dad, right? It's the same, but the expression is different.
Right.
So I always keep everything the same, the rules the same, because it helps him in those areas where we really don't want him to be like that. Does that make sense? So don't be worried about like if you lose, like my guys when I come home, they're happy to see me.
Yeah.
They'll wag their tails and stuff, but they're not all over the
That's kind of, we like don't really greet him when we come home because of that. Like, that's something we had read somewhere is to like be calm. Yeah, kind of ignore them. Not, like, don't. I think that helped with. He used to bark when we first got him. He used to bark, I think, right when we would leave for a long time. Now he doesn't really do that at all, really, anymore. And I think that has helped, just not greeting him, because it like acts like it's not a big deal for us to come home. Yeah,
so what happens is when we leave, we tend to make a big deal, and when we come back, we tend to make a big deal. So then you're leaving your dog like this, you know? So then everything's always about passiveness, calmness, because a calm dog takes steps or time to escalate to reactivity or aggression or whatever. So let's think about, like, as humans, if I have something in my life bothering me over here and it's not being addressed, and then something happens over here that like kind of bothers me, and then again something, it's just like, all right, like, you just like flare up, right? Same thing for the dog, except it's excitement based. You know, it's just kind of sitting there, but then when something happens, excitement can easily trigger into jumping in more excitement to reactivity. So that's why it's always passiveness, because that takes steps before it builds up to the extreme. Okay, does that all make sense? Let's go ahead and swap handlers here. Very good. You're going to go and stand up. This is fine. And before releasing them, go ahead and do like a quick just walk around here. I brought a bunch of blood with me apparently. Just have, wait a second. And go ahead and do another walk around. There, right? So you see how he was still like interested, right? So if you wanted to make it difficult for him, what you could do is tap him into a passive state, and once he's passive, start moving. He gets up again, you stop moving, you tap him into a passive state, and you keep going, right? So what you're trying to teach him is how to be chill and calm while you're walking around, right? So we'll try that to see, just to like challenge him a bit. So go ahead and just give it a tap. Wait a moment. Good. Now go ahead and try to walk. Good. Try coming back to up. Stop. Okay. Get up. And wait. Good. Try again with the walk around. Stop. Test. Test. Light full. Tap. Tap. Wait a moment. Tap.
And then walk around. And stop, yep. And then just now walk around. That's okay. Yeah, you see that panting too?
Mm-hmm.
So all that whining isn't physical discomfort, it's mental discomfort,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because he's wanting to be engaged, and you're telling him, no, right? It's like a kid throwing a tantrum when they won't get what they want. So then, all that whining is frustration. He's got to let it out somehow, so don't feel bad about that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the panting is, what just happened stressed me out, but I'm gonna let it go. Okay, so that's how you can tell if you ever do anything with him, and you notice he starts to pant during the exercise, what you're doing at that moment was stressing him out, but he's letting it go. I like to see panting.
Mm-hmm.
Panting means what we're doing is concerning.
Mhm.
And it has to be concerning in order for it to be impactful.
Okay.
Right, so if we're dealing with dog reactivity, if the dog is not concerned
Yeah.
about my correction, reactivity is gonna keep happening, right?
Right.
When it comes to the laws and the speed limits and all that stuff, if they weren't concerning because of the consequences that they carry, should we break
Yeah.
those laws?
Right.
Everybody would be breaking the law, right? So that's how that works. Except for this guy, it's all physical, because again, we can't explain to him, what we want him to do ahead of time, okay? So here, another look, if you go to the red dot,
Mhm.
thing, whatever, right? Like that would be maybe his pinnacle.
Yeah.
For
sure.
You would chill him out first, and then bring up the red light.
We'll have to bring it here for us.
I don't know where it went.
The other thing would be, we help them out by not moving.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when you started walking, he was not moving, you were good. Once he got up, you stopped moving, corrected him to control him or de-escalate him, and then you moved again. Because if you were to keep moving and tapping him, it would be too confusing.
Okay.
Okay, so that's just something to keep in mind if you do this at home.
Okay.
Is if you keep your motion as you tap, it's gonna keep him in that realm. So you always wanna stop what you're doing to get him to help.
And I do that with his food.
Mhm.
So like when I go to feed him, he knows if he's not laying on his pillow and relaxing, then I stop the motion of feeding him.
Mhm.
Right. So as soon as I start to crack his bin,
Mhm.
he goes to his pillow,
Mhm.
and then in the minute if he sits up, I stop opening the bin.
Mhm.
Yeah, he has to have his head
And
down.
until he's laying down, then I continue to open the bin. Say I get the bin open, and then I start to take a scoop. If he picks his head up, I stop.
Mhm.
So like I think similar.
It's the same.
Mhm.
When you come to feed him and give him the bowl, what does that process look like?
So I dump the food in his bowl, and he lays and keeps his head down,
Mhm.
and then until I free him.
Okay.
And
then
he
goes to his-
we will forget to free him. And
Yeah, and he'll
stays.
stay there. Yeah, right.
Okay.
Which is not nice, but he
But he'll
does
stay.
he does very well because he knows like he gets a reward, so he like wants to be good.
Where's what's the distance of the bowl to his bed?
So when you walk in our door,
Mhm.
the bowl is right there to the right.
Okay, yeah,
And
And
then
then
the
his pillows.
pillows by the windows.
yeah. Okay, I'm gonna have you try this.
Move it further away.
Mm-mm.
Oh.
Is, don't place him,
Okay.
pour the bowl out, ignore all the stuff in the beginning, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And bring the bowl over to the spot. Reggie's gonna be Reggie, okay?
Over to his pillow. Or what?
So like, you're doing the food stuff,
Uh-huh.
he's not under any kind of command or direction.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
He might be barking or something, just ignore that at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna go over to the section where you put his bowl. He's gonna be there with you, following to some degree. He's probably gonna be escalated. He might run to his pillow as just force of habit or whatever.
That's
Yeah.
probably.
But what you would do, and if that happens, what you can do is like put up the pillow so that it throws him off.
Okay.
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 And when you go to put the bowl down, okay, he might be like jumping or charging for it, pick the bowl up.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're actually gonna do it from there, and that should work backwards to everything else, because he should be able, at this point, if you've been doing that since you haven't been doing that since you got him,
Yeah.
yeah, he should be able to he should just be chill the entire time. There shouldn't be any more head picking up. The only thing I can think of is maybe because it is so strict of what you're wanting,
Mhm.
is that why he's still kind of struggling with it. And I think he's also struggling with it because he knows at some point you're gonna release him
Mhm.
to go to it, so he's kind of anticipating that release.
Mhm.
Is I would avoid any verbal cues, avoid the pillow, let Reggie just be free, and then you do it it starts at the end. So we do this with our puppies.
Mhm.
So what ends up happening is it works backwards. is you start at the very end with the lift, the kind of what you're doing, but it's you putting down the bowl. So eventually he'll sit there, the bowl's right in front of him, there is no stay, there's no words like that. And he'll be looking at it, and then eventually you'll see kind of Reggie look up at you, and then you would release him. And you keep repeating that, and what you'll most likely see is after he gets that concept after a few days, is once you start doing the food stuff, he's gonna be sitting there, but he's not gonna budge. Like it works backwards, does that make sense?
Mhm.
And that should help with any lingering stuff. So then after that, then you could go to pillow, and he should be able to maintain that strictness. Okay, so you have a good idea there. I would just so that is something that we're trying to do default behavior. It's when this starts happening, you just do this automatically. If you want to have your
Well, I think he does. I mean, when we go to start feeding him, he goes
he goes to
Yeah.
the pillow. Yeah, he
The
defaults.
time that he's the worst about picking his head up is just when we have him in a pillow that's not for his food.
Right, because he doesn't get his either.
Yeah,
Oh, I see what you're saying. Sure,
Yeah.
sure, sure.
Which is, I
Yeah.
mean,
because he knows he needs to do an extra good job to get fed.
he's falling asleep right now too.
That's good.
Can I see him?
So all this stuff is stuff that stacks with each other.
Mhm.
You know, so that's something if you want to try to see if it has any impact. Otherwise, keep with it. Because yes, you're correct. It's the same idea. You're stopping, he settles, and then you move forward to what's going
Well,
on.
it's the same thing with the eating dinner. Like Kelsey said, when we sit down to eat dinner, we basically start praying, and he goes to his pillow.
He's learned that context. Yeah, he's assuming. Yeah, good. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna layer in the word. So you want to use place? Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll use
Right.
this.
Okay, so go ahead and release him.
Freak.
All right, and what you're gonna do is very similar. You're gonna walk around, you're gonna come to a stop. You're gonna cue place first, have your hand ready on the remote, and you start tapping if he doesn't go. Okay, so if you say place and Reggie shoots there, you don't tap, fine. And then you're gonna, if you wanna settle him, you can go for the set, like the tap to settle him. But it's not a tap to send him if he goes on his own. Okay, so it's place, boom,
Do you lead him?
no.
No.
Yeah, it's gonna be place tapping first, and if then he doesn't respond by the third tap, keep tapping and then lightly pull to guide him there, okay? Because we're wanting him to do the work, okay?
Feel. Place.
Tap, tap, light pull, there you go, wait a moment. Tap, tap, light pull, there you go, wait a moment. There. Okay, now here, go ahead and do like a little walk around. And the next one that you, for the send, I'm gonna have you come to a complete stop first, and then
Yeah.
send.
He had like a running start.
Yeah, he was going after momentum. There you go.
Freak.
Good.
Heel. Place.
Tap, 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 light pull, tap. There you go. Wait a moment. Good. Break, break,
Freak.
good. All right, wait a moment. No.
Place.
Tap, tap, there we go. Good, so you can see where he's thinking now. Tap, and the place propelled him, the tap propelled him to the place. So everything that we were doing earlier was to build to that, okay? So that this way, when you tap him, as he gets more used to this, we shouldn't see darting like that anymore. Tap is gonna mean, okay, I need to step back on the pillow or the bed or whatever it is that you're using.
Mhm.
Okay, try a couple more.
Freak. Place.
Good. Good. That's fine.
Freak. Place.
Okay. Like that. Okay. So there was a delay in response to the work, but there was an immediate response to the tap. Okay, so that's what we're trying to condition from the get-go. So now we're gonna do the same process, but I'm gonna have you do a quick walk around. You'll come in, you'll praise Reggie, and do high energy praise. And if you need to settle him, you'll settle him, and then you'll walk around again, and then free. Okay?
Say that one more time?
So,
Get him to do it, give him a lot of high energy praise to get him amped up, and then settle him.
Okay, but all on here.
correct.
Yeah.
And then you'll do, once you settle him, another walk around, and then the release.
Okay.
Okay.
Walk around. And then I'm gonna praise him.
Correct. Good. And then settle. There you go. And then a
Do
quick
you
walk
thank
around.
him? No?
Mhm.
He's so over it.
Good. And then wait a moment. Free.
Free.
Good. We'll try that a couple more times. So go ahead and bring him back.
Snuggles.
I know.
Place.
Good. There you go. Good. Good. Much better.
Yeah, good boy. Good boy, yes. Yeah, good boy. Good boy.
Alright. Good.
Free.
Good, we'll do one more.
Place.
Now he's like, I'm gonna sit opposite dad.
Mom's my favorite now.
Good. Very good. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So this exercise of like sending there stuff, 3 to 5 minutes once a piece, because it's redundant. The dogs tend to get frustrated with redundant things. Like that's why you saw him like shoot there, because he's like, I know you're gonna send me there.
Well, and
He
with
watches.
heel walking too, he knows not only when he has his collar on, but when your hand is by the remote.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So like if I'm wearing it here, you can see him look here,
Mhm.
and he knows if my hand's down here or if it's up here.
He's, yeah.
Yeah. So what I do, because then they get used to that motion,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll see them play with that, is like I put carabiners on mine because I always wear jeans,
Yeah.
and I put on the belt loop there, so it's right, my hand's right there.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'll just keep it in my hand in the
yeah.
beginning
Yeah.
until the dog's fully conditioned, and then it doesn't matter. But this kind of back and forth place to free, 3 to 5 minutes, you know, once a piece.
Okay.
All this is meant to do is really build his response. When you say place, boom, he just shoots there.
Mm-hmm.
And it typically works backwards, so if you want to be able to send them from like anywhere within the home, you start close,
Mm-hmm.
you work your way back. The reason why we did different angles is because if you always practice it a certain way, his brain will get like stuck on that. So if you
Yeah.
always send him this way, like you could be over here and you'll send him, and you'll see the dog come around and go like this. So we send from different angles
Okay.
to teach the dog like it just means go here, right?
Yeah.
There's no like strict way of going about it.
In the beginning, we should have the leash, but then should we graduate to no
Yeah, at some
collar
point.
leash?
Mhm. So in the beginning, you're using the leash to limit just his options.
Mhm.
If you're putting him in a situation, like let's say when guests come over and you're trying to settle him, you're definitely gonna want that leash in the beginning, because he's gonna be, like right now, how he's impulsive to run
Mhm.
to the person. It's gonna be the same thing there, so it just allows you to limit him in his range of motion so he can get to the answer much more quickly. And then when it comes to duration you can do as many times as you want, as long as you want it, because it's not redundant. It's just go here and don't move, right? So you can do 2 hours in the morning, 30 minutes for lunch, and then like another hour like at bedtime or whatever. You could do it however you like. And then once you feel like he's kind of mastered the sending exercise, you don't need to practice this. You just go to application, okay? And then just think of ways you can push him, the dot, anything else he doesn't like, knocking on something, whatever that sends like trigger him,
Knocking on the
whatever.
door, yeah.
Sure.
Yep, all those things are things that you can use to your advantage to teach them to either relax more quickly or keep relaxed with that kind of stuff going on.
So when he's doing daycare and stuff, will you guys use these commands with him too after he's trained? And-
Yeah, I think he actually already does it.
Yeah,
what I
I
was
think
thinking.
it
I
does.
feel like he's already done this with us here.
Sure.
But here he's chill. Like we don't see.
Yeah, it's crazy to me that he's chill ever, but
Yeah, it's because it's association.
Yeah.
Right. Because obviously we don't treat him like you guys treat
Yeah.
him. Like
Yeah.
you know, our you pay us to give him structure.
right.
So he's not going to be like structure, you know, like running in. So with the owners, because he's so used to
Yeah.
like being loose and
Yeah.
do what I want.
Free for all.
Exactly. So now you're just putting rules into place with like, I mean, it's like growing up for me, you know, yeah, I was a kid, but I couldn't run around the house screaming my head off.
Right.
If I got too loud, my mom would say, take it outside,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So it's the same thing for dogs. So if you have any questions, let me know.
Okay.
Otherwise, you can start employing this. And then we'll see how he does it gets during the week, this coming week, with any of the quarter stuff and all that. See if we notice any changes, whether it's easier to de-escalate him or he's not responding or not becoming reactive or whatever. And just kind of play by ear from there. Okay?
Okay.
Great.
Awesome. Good job, guys.
Thank you. Free. And you did a good job.